Coach.
Good afternoon. Good to see everybody. I'm looking forward to your questions. Don't have a lot to give right now. We've pretty much installed most of our offense, defense, and special teams. Another good physical day today and tomorrow as we try to somewhat mimic a game week in preparation for next week, where we go pretty hard for 2 days in full pads, do a walkthrough, and then taper down with the physical, but still run quickly. So in our less than 2 weeks preparation, getting our guys ready to play.
Questions for Coach Shaw? Please use the raise your hand function through the participants tab. We'll start with Troy Clarity. Troy, go ahead.
Coach, what more do you know about the defense right now than you might not have known a couple of weeks ago?
It's been an interesting time because we haven't had, there's such a ramp up the beginning of training camp, and having to not practice here, but not just that, to be able to have to split practices. Our practices were a lot shorter than usual, just because we didn't have all the guys on the field at the same time per county restrictions. But really in the last week or so, I think we've gotten a little bit better, got more of our stuff in, got some guys that were banged up back to where we're looking more like we want to look, with our athleticism, with our physicality. Not quite there yet, but I would say that we have a little bit more depth than I thought we may have at this point in time, to where we've got some of our younger guys coming along in the secondary, some of our guys in the linebacking core. I knew we were going to be pretty deep outside linebacker wise, and if we're healthy, we're deeper than I'd hope to be, and we'll see where we are in the next 10 days or so. But I'd probably say the biggest thing is we're a little bit deeper than I thought, which is great. Knowing that, trying to having the off season that we've all had, and thinking that any one guy is going to play every single snap of every single game, it's probably unrealistic. So to be able to have some depth, be able to have some rotation, I think can help us in the long haul.
Next, we'll go to Adam Rittenberg from ESPN.com. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, David, I was just wondering, what type of teams do you think are best equipped to handle this odd season, short season? And then obviously there's quite a few new play callers in your division. Is that an advantage, a disadvantage? How do you see that?
Well, I think the type of teams, answering your question very directly. If you've got guys that can operate in space, that's college football anyway. But now with other people not being able to possibly tackle as much, and having a shorter season, if you've got guys that can make people miss and make plays, running back, receiver, quarterback wise, I think that's a lot of what we've seen college and in the NFL. If you got guys that can make plays, scoring has gone extremely high, and there's a lot of guys that have missed a lot of tackles. I think there is the difficulty in preparation for new play callers. It's really tough. It's always been that way in college football because you don't have a preseason. So in general, really good play callers, even after watching their first game, you're still not 100% sure what they're going to do, because they can kind of have the second game plan that's within their system, but has more than the first game plan. So the biggest thing, especially for us now preparing for a new offensive coordinator at Oregon, is to really focus on our rules, our own tendencies, our own strengths and weaknesses, and make sure that all of our guys are just ready to play physically and ready to play within our scheme mentally to handle whatever Oregon throws at us.
Next, we'll go over to RJ Abadia. Go ahead, RJ.
Hey, Coach. Apologies if you let off with this, but I was curious what the plan is for Saturday. Are you guys going to have one of those rehearsal days in the stadium or anything like that? Or is that kind of just a rest day as the last Saturday before you guys have to play games?
We will go to the stadium on Saturday. Won't do exactly what we've done it before. I'm actually going to shorten it a little bit. We're going to get a good run through on Friday. Kind of let the guys rest their legs on Sunday, and then have a good practice on Monday, knowing that Tuesday is going to be off for election day. So we will go out on Saturday. We'll do kind of a run through, into the stadium, pregame warm up, go through a bunch of different situations, do some rotations, hands team, onside kick, all those funky things that come up. So we'll go through that whole script on Saturday.
And then just a quick follow-up, just wondering your thoughts on some position battles. I would ask about corner, backup quarterback, and the returners, kick and punt. How are things going over there?
Well, I'm kidding. No, the corner position for us, Paulson deciding to go to the NFL, it really changed things for us, because looking at the way Caillou Kelly finished his freshman year and the work that he's put in this offseason, I honestly thought we may have the best corner duo in America. And so the competition on that other side has been real. It's been very good. I will say this: it's been great to see Ethan Bonner back healthy and in that mix. We've got a good group of guys, and like I said earlier, I don't anticipate anybody playing every single snap of every game. So I think we've got a good plan for the guys that will play in our secondary. Backup quarterback, I think, has been one of our things that we wanted to emphasize. Want to make sure that we got a lot of reps for different guys, and that was hampered by the way we had to start the training camp. The last few practices, we've been able to split our 7-7s, be able to split our team periods so that more guys get more reps. So it's fascinating. It's been fascinating. I wouldn't say it's clear, completely clear just yet. Because bottom line, I think we've got some really good guys that know what to do. So I don't know if it's going to be situational. I don't know that we have to, name a backup quarterback, but I think all those guys will continue to work, and hopefully those guys don't get a chance to play, because hopefully David stays healthy and has a great year. What was the other question?
Returners, kick and punt.
Returners.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's relatively an open competition. I mean, Connor Weddington led the conference last year in kickoff returns. I think there were a couple that I know he wishes he got more out of, and it's rare that you have a guy be a returner and lead the conference without a touchdown. But I think he's more than capable of being the guy there again and doing a better job. But having more guys in the mix, I think, is great. Once again, we expect Connor to play a whole bunch for us, so maybe he won't take every kickoff return. We'll see how the season goes. He's interjected himself as well in the punt return battle, along with Austin Jones and a bunch of other guys. So I think more refreshing than usual for us, multiple candidates there at both those positions. So before game day, we'll put out a bit of a roster. I'm not sure if we'll do either ors or if we'll name starters. But I mean, there's a chance that both our punt return and kickoff return may be done by multiple people. So, which once again is a positive for us, because we're not just putting guys out there because we have nobody else. We've got a couple of guys that look like they have promise. So it's going to be a good group to watch.
Next, we'll go to Scott Reese. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Coach. Wanted to ask you about the running backs. You got a lot of dudes, a lot of talent in that running back room, including a couple of freshmen. So I'm just curious, with this group, are you looking for Austin Jones to step into a Cam Scarlett 60% of action type of role with everybody else sort of sprinkling in, or is there a possibility that we'll see more of a hot hand and more guys with more of a role this year? Just curious of what you've seen.
Well, I think our history here, last year we were so banged up and so young behind Cam. We weren't able to do what we typically do. I think our history here for the last decade plus is we play anywhere from 3 to 5 backs in a game, and do it pretty normally. The guys know their roles, go out there and try to execute their roles. Austin Jones and Nathaniel Pete have really had really good training camps. It's been great to see Justice Woods, was injured 2 springs ago. Great to see him come back and be full speed and be in the mix. Dorian Maddox has been a huge leader for us on this football team in the offseason. I don't know that he will be back this year. He's been banged up. But he was, when he was healthy and they're doing great. So really we've got 3 upperclassmen that we feel great about and a couple of young guys that are showing some promise. And especially with this year not counting for eligibility, you'll see other guys get sprinkled in. So I think it's going to be a fun group to watch. It's a versatile group. It's a group that not only can run the ball, but also catch the ball in the backfield. I think that's been shown pretty well too. So it's hopefully going to feel like it has in years past here, where we may have a guy that carries the most of the reps, but you'll see a good mix of guys in there.
Just a quick follow-up. Is there one guy of the Jones, Pete, Woods triumvirate that has shown in terms of pass catching chops and prowess that has really stood out?
I think all of them. We want them to be complete backs and do a bunch. And like once again, our history has been pretty good there. And although, Bryce's big year, he didn't catch a whole lot of balls, but he did the year before. It was part of it just because of his ankle. We had him to run the ball, so we were trying to take him out on pass plays as much as we could. But our goal was to have our backs that we don't have to shuttle in and out for specific things, that they can run, that they can catch, and most importantly, that they can pass protect. So hopefully we'll get guys out there and leave them in there for multiple plays and not just for 1 or 2 things.
Next, we'll go over to Daniel Martinez-Crams with Stanford Daily. Go ahead, Daniel.
Hi, Coach. You mentioned looking ahead to Oregon. How much are you treating this like a bye week where you have 2 weeks to prepare for one opponent, or something like an end of camp where this week is your last week of camp and next week is going to be Oregon week?
Well, I like our system. What we do 2 weeks out is that we will take 1 period a day and give that to the general offense, defense of the opponent. We're not heavy into game plan right now. So we'll take 1 period of our, 7-8 periods of real good work and dedicate that to the opponent coming up. But the rest of practice is like training camp. Offense against defense, 7-on-7, 1-on-1, all those things. So it's really just to give our guys a taste, not heavy into the game plan, but just getting a taste of their fronts, of their coverages, of their general, what we anticipate being their general running game, general passing game. And then we'll get into the game plan next week to really prepare. But this week we'll just give them a little bit of a taste each day.
Next question comes from Jacob Rayburn. Go ahead, Jacob.
Hi, Coach. I actually have a question about weights. The roster was updated, I think about a week ago, and there was a lot of really noticeable weight gain by guys at pretty much every position. Curious how intentional that was, and also if you've been pleased with the conditioning of the guys.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty obvious of the disruption of this offseason. And I give Coach Carroll Cohen a lot of credit. Colin Carroll a lot of credit in trying to organize our guys that stayed here and our guys that went home or went elsewhere with whatever was available to them. We've got a great a great team of people working with our people, obviously. We've got a new sports, I guess, technically a sports nutritionist that's been in communication with our entire team, but with certain individuals, what to eat when and how frequently, et cetera. So I think those two people and their staffs have really put great plans together. So to answer your question briefly, yes, high percentage of those have been very intentional. We played a lot of young guys last year that didn't have the mass that we needed them to. So I think a lot of those guys, Thomas Booker being one, that was able to put on the weight and keep his speed and athleticism. And that's what you're looking for as guys go from freshman to sophomore year to junior year. Their bodies are still developing, and we try to do the best we can to accentuate that. So, that's the idea: is that the guys get bigger, faster, stronger.
And a follow-up, among the current freshmen, has anyone kind of popped to your eyes? I know that this has sort of been asked before, but at this stage in camp, it's a lot for these guys to take in. It's a lot for them to acclimate to. Has anyone impressed you, whether it be on the mental side or the physical side, with their ability to take it all in and then play football?
Yeah, it's been such a crazy year. And we've been saying since before signing date last year that we thought this group of freshmen were very, very mature. And they've handled all this COVID stuff extremely well, probably better than any of us in this call. We were 17 years old. But these guys have had a ton of meeting time since March, or since I can't remember when we started meeting with the guys, maybe May-ish, where we were really starting to give them the building blocks. So a lot of these guys, we started training camp and they were in a better mental space than any freshman class before them. So I think that's been fun to see, that we can rotate those guys in. Now we can split periods so they get a lot of reps, and we don't have to give them a completely separate list of plays because they only know the first 2 days of installation. We've been able to pretty much run everything that we've put in with those guys. So that's been fun. That's been great to see. And we'll see how much that can get some of these guys on the field. The thing to remember is we got we were a young team last year. We got a lot of guys coming back. So our freshmen, our incoming freshmen, these are spots where you're gonna have to fight to get on the field. So when a freshman steps on the field, it's not just because we like them, it's because they've gone out there and they've outperformed somebody, whether it's in general or in something specific that we put them out there for. So I've been very pleased with this freshman class. I think they're very competitive. I think they're driven, and we'll see how many guys get on the field. But as far as between the ears, I'm extremely pleased with this group of young men.
Thank you, Coach.
Next, we'll go over to John Platts. Go ahead, John.
Coach, back to the signal caller question, and you are blessed to have a veteran. And I'm just kind of curious, as one who has worked with a lot of quarterbacks through a lot of years and some pretty advanced thinkers, and Andrew Luck and Kevin Hogan and players like that, can you comment on how you're working with him, maybe the input he's giving to you either in practice or in the whiteboard, maybe not feedback maybe, or just how that contrasts with some of the other quarterbacks and how you like the development of the thinking of the position?
Yeah, Davis is right where we would love for him to be. It's more than just a working knowledge of the offense. I think he's got it down. He feels great about it. The only thing with Davis, and it's just he hasn't played a lot. I would love to be sitting here with him having played the entire season last year, right? When KJ went down, if he was able to come just finish the year out, would have been great. But it's 2 games here, 3 games there, and so even though he's got the offense down, even though we think he's supremely talented both as a runner and as a thrower, there's still just those little things that he has some experience to gain. And this 7-game season, I think, is going to be huge for him. And hopefully he finishes out even much better than he starts, but we anticipate him starting really well.
Back to RJ Abadia. Go ahead, RJ.
Coach, I'm wondering about the extra year of eligibility as it relates to your projections for the size of your recruiting classes, whether it be the 21 class you're finishing up or the 22 one that's coming up. How much more complicated has that become for you? And how much clarity do you have right now, just in terms of how many you want to take in those classes?
Well, right now it doesn't really affect the 21 class. I think the NCAA rules have established a pretty good precedent from last year, what we did with the spring sports, in that your 85 cap pretty much stays the same because the guys that would be graduating and leaving don't count. So I feel pretty good about that. The biggest question mark, not just for us, but I think for everybody, is you've got a mix of guys that are third-year guys that could play well and jump to the NFL. You've got a mix of fourth-year guys that normally would be done, but they have another year they could come back. And you've got a mix of fifth-year guys that, if they wanted to, could come back and have a sixth year next year. So this offseason is going to be really interesting, but once again, the impact, I think, on our scholarship numbers is going to be minimal. As many of you know on this call anyway, we don't have a free-for-all with our scholarship issues, our scholarship numbers, because we ask our guys to do a lot. So taking AP courses and doing all the things that we need our people to do, we're not going to all of a sudden here in October find 5, 6, 7 more guys. We've been recruiting the guys that we've been recruiting. Like the impact on the 21 class, I think is not going to come back and are going to leave. But once again, this isn't a Stanford thing. This is all along college football. This year doesn't count. So you've got a bunch of guys that could come out. You've got a bunch of guys that could come back. So I think that's going to be interesting once we see how many guys leave after this year, and then trying to calculate what that means for the 22 class. But I think we already have a really good handle on our general numbers. We still think it's going to be a relatively sizable class for us. Our 21 class is not going to be as sizable. And that has nothing to do with the pandemic. That has a lot to do with just the ebb and flow of our classes. And once again, different than everybody else's, where we're not going to have a bunch of transfers coming in to augment your class. So this was not going to be a big class in 21, and 22 we anticipate being a little bit larger.
And then just one quick follow-up. It doesn't sound like you do, but do you anticipate the need or even just an argument for altering that 85 number for any temporary length of time?
Well, the NCAA basically has augmented it. So guys that are fifth-year seniors, guys that are graduating seniors, fourth-year guys, they don't count next year anyway. I don't anticipate having an issue at all. The only thing that'll be questionable is exactly what our number is for the 22 class. That's really the only thing. And as I've said with many of these things all seem to work their way out. And the more effort you put to try to get 20 snakes into a small box, the more they get out of the way anyway. So we'll see how our numbers go with the guys that leave and guys that come back after this football season. And then that'll help shape the 22 class.
Next question is from John Wilner. Go ahead, John.
David, thanks for doing this.
Yes.
Not sure that there's anything more frustrating for fans or confusing for us folks in the media than the targeting. And I was wondering, just based on what the rules are going to be this season, is there anything that we should be mindful of when we see the play being adjudicated, on the field and in the booth?
So being the chair of the rules committee, first of all, anybody who leads anything realizes that nobody has and nobody ever will have 100% agreement with what you decide. So I know that not everybody's going to like the change that we made, but for the most part, a high percentage of the people have liked the changes that we made last year. And for me, what it boils down to is when the flag is thrown, right? In years past, if you couldn't tell, then you just let it go. But what we're saying now, if the flag is thrown, and it could be very quick, and if our officials, they do a great job, as hard as it is when the call doesn't go our way, they do a great job of trying to anticipate it. But this game goes so fast, and you think you saw helmet to helmet, you think you saw forearm to helmet, you think that guy was a defenseless player, you think somebody lowered the head, you throw the flag. The difference this year now, the difference last year and going into this year, is that when it goes up to replay, the replay, you have to see the indicators. You have to see defenseless player. You have to see this was a launch. You see a lowering of the helmet. You see significant contact to the head and neck area of another player. If you don't see those things, then it's not targeting. So what you saw last year, which we hope the trend continues, is that the number of flags don't matter. To us, it's the number of penalties that are assessed. Last year, we saw fewer penalties assessed, which is what we were looking for. We want this out of our game. We wanted our coaches to coach it out of our games. We want our players to lower their targets and not use their helmet and not hit other guys in the helmet. That's what we want. But if the flag is thrown, now we have to say it has to be right. And if it's not right, and the eye in the sky says I don't see all of the indicators, then it's not. So we saw more of our flags being taken away, more of our penalties being taken away than years past. And that's what we're looking for, is that we want it out of the game, but if we're going to call it, it better be right. So that's the biggest thing that I would love for people to understand, is that we try not to make it complicated, but we want to get it right more than anything else. And then adding along that, which is we want to decriminalize this because it does happen so fast. And many of you talked to Elijah Holder over the years, one of the nicest guys we've ever had here. He was kicked out of 2 games. So this is not about being a headhunter. This is not about being a bad guy. It's not about being uncoachable. We're talking about milliseconds and millimeters. Twice against the same opponent, both against UCLA, and the 2 inches that it took for his 2 plays to become fouls were very difficult. So for now, we're saying, hey, let's not criminalize this guy. If we do say that this person got a targeting call, let's not send him to the locker room to watch the game like he did something wrong. He got caught in a bad body position. He gets to stay out there with his teammates or root his teammates on. So those are the 2 big things that I'm very proud of that we've been able to do from the rules committee side.
Thank you.
All right, that looks like it. So appreciate the time, Coach. Thank you to everyone for joining. We'll send out audio and video shortly.
Thanks, everybody.